Victoria from Biblio Lifestyle, and you're listening to the Reader's Couch podcast, the show that will help you bridge the gap between living a full and busy life to one where you're reading, learning new things, and having fun. Today on the couch, I'm so excited to welcome author Douglas Westerbeke to talk about his novel, A Short Walk Through a Wide World. A Short Walk Through a Wide World is set in 1885 Paris, and we meet 9-year-old Aubrey, who contracts a mysterious illness after discovering a wishing well with her sisters. Doctors are unable to find a diagnosis, but through trial and error, they discover she becomes deathly ill if she stays anywhere for more than a few days or visits the same location twice. So it's concluded Aubrey has to travel to stay alive. So we see Aubrey's journey, which spans decades, and we see her form friendships, have romances, and find joy, all while discovering what it means to truly live. So in this episode, Douglas and I talk about his new book, what he's reading and writing, but we also play a fun game called Globetrotting the World. But before we get into the episode, pretty please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, leave the show a 5-star rating, and of course, write me a review if you love the show. Now, if you don't love the show, well, that's your choice. But if you do love the show, it's a great way for you to support the podcast. Now, if you're more interested in getting in touch with me directly, you can now send me a text message with your thoughts. So let me know what you think about the episode. Tell me about the last book you read. Maybe you also read A Short Walk Through a Wide World. I'd love to know your thoughts. Or you could just send me a message with encouragement or whatever you're thinking about. Or suggestions for the show. I mean, I'm open. So click the link at the top of the show notes that says, send me a text with your thoughts, and I'll share some of the messages I receive with you on air. So thanks in advance. And now onto the episode with author Douglas Westerbeke. Hi friends, welcome again to the Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me to talk about his novel, A Short Walk Through a Wide World, is author Douglas Westerbeke. Hi Douglas, welcome to the Reader's Couch.
Hi Victoria, it's great to be here.
Yay, I'm so glad you're here. Really excited about your book. I read it, I loved it, it was fabulous. But I want to know how you're feeling. This is your debut, it's your first book, it's available. Readers can go straight to the bookstore or the library and get a copy. How has this experience been for you? How are you feeling?
It's like the most surreal thing ever because in one sense, nothing's changed. I'm like still driving my kids to school and I'm cooking dinner at night and all that kind of stuff. But on the other side, I'm like getting all these emails saying all this amazing stuff is happening. And I'm like, my head spins every time. I was showing my daughter, I was taking her to school. She's of the age. We're going to visit school. And I was at a school and we're having conversation. I realized I can't hear anybody because all my head is just full of all the good reviews I'm getting and all the exciting stuff that's going on. And I'm so excited. It's just surreal. I have no other word for it.
I love hearing that. It's a really exciting time, I think, for authors and for us readers, because we're introduced to a new author. We have a fabulous new book to start with you. At least I for sure think so. I really enjoyed this one. But I want readers to hear straight from you. Tell us about your novel, A Short Walk Through a Wide World. What's your elevator pitch? Essentially, what can readers expect when they pick up your book?
All right, so you want my elevator pitch. So it starts, this is what I always tell everybody. So it starts off in the 1880s, and there's a little 9-year-old girl sitting at the dinner table, and all of a sudden she gets really sick. And the whole family, they're all like, what's wrong? What's wrong? They freak out. They take her to the doctor, and when she gets there, she's fine. And so she comes back home, but she can't even enter the house. She gets sick all over again. And they're like, oh no. And this time the doctor sees it. They rush him back and they take her to the same hospital, and she's even sicker this time. And the doctors they're holding her down because she's spasming and she's coughing up blood. It's real agony. It's the worst stuff ever. And they can't seem to help. And she gets so frustrated. She just breaks free. She runs off into the streets of Paris at night, and she feels better. And she realizes it's this active exploration of being somewhere she's never been before that cures her. And so from almost that moment on, she spends the rest of her life wandering around and around the world, constantly on the run from her disease. And that's my elevator pitch in a nutshell.
That's the elevator pitch in a nutshell. But it does start a bit before that, though, because we do have a wishing well. We have her 3 sisters who were there with her, and then she goes home. And of course, she starts getting sick. Tell me about the idea because I'm wondering, is it a curse? Is it a bad stroke of luck? What is it? But the sisters are fine, but she's the only one. The sisters are Pauline and Sylvie. So tell me about that initial setup to get the story going.
It feels like she's almost been selected for this because she, like you were saying, and the structure of the book is told in there's a lot of flashback sequences. And so you go back and you realize when she's little, she finds this puzzle ball that kind of follows her around everywhere. And she found the puzzle ball on the stoop of a dead man's house. Maybe he's had the puzzle ball before her, and he's a traveler too. He doesn't even speak French. He's living in Paris. Now she's got the ball. So you have this kind of idea that whoever's got this ball is about to go on some epic journey of some kind. And so the idea is, I think she really feels selected for this journey, and she doesn't know why, and she doesn't appreciate it. And that's really the tension, because it's just hard not understanding. She's almost dealing with forces that are bigger than she is, that are incomprehensible, that she'll never understand. And that's where she's going. So it's tough. So I set it up so that it's like this brutal disease and all that kind of stuff. But that's the motivation, to get her out into the world, because somebody wants her to see it, or something wants her to see it.
Yes, absolutely. I love the whole wooden puzzle ball thing. It finds her no matter what. I thought that was very fascinating. But like you said, she discovers that through travel, adventure, movement, essentially, she's feeling better. And her mom goes on the road with her initially. So they realize that she can't be in the same location for more than a few days. She can't go back to a location she's been before. So she's constantly on the move. Her mom accompanies her for the first few years. Tell us about her mother.
Yeah, so her mom, because she's the only one who's available to do it. Her sisters are at school, her father works. So her mom goes with, she can't stay in one place. She needs somebody to go with her. She's just 9 years old when it all starts. So they're going from hotel to hotel around the Paris area until they run out of hotels, basically, and Paris gets too small. So now they're circling spiral-like around France, all the way down to southern France. And when France, they run out of room there, they're in Italy, they're in Austria, wherever they have to go. And this is way over the mother's head. The mom just wanted to raise her 3 darling children. And now she's like wandering the world, and they run out of money, and it's hard. It's really difficult. And so this lasts several years. By the time I think she was around 11 years old. She's, oh my God, what am I doing to my poor mother? Look at her. And at that point, she abandons her mother. And now she's completely on her own out in the world with no idea how she's going to survive it. And yeah, it's an ordeal from there.
Yes, at that point, I think it really kicks off, seeing her travel after she just decided, hey, I'm just going to sneak out, hide away, because it was taxing on her mom, just keeping up with her and just moving and traveling all the time. I'm curious, though, first off, where did the inspiration for this novel come from? But I was also curious about the setting, the 1800s, why that time period, but also, what was your inspiration for the novel?
Oh, so that's 3 questions, but I'll do it. So the first one is, wait a minute. So the first, why in the 1880s? And that was very purposeful. One, I really like the travel stories I just really love Somerset Maugham. He's like one of my favorite authors. And he wrote a lot of travel stories. And when you're reading them, they're very adventurous. They're very exciting. And also, because of that time period, he's not sitting around in airports the whole time. So if you start in the 1880s, and think Jules Verne around the world in 80 days, you're going to be traveling by boat and by train and steamship and all this kind of stuff. You're going to be walking a lot of it because so much of the world was undeveloped back then. So yeah, that's why I picked it. If I had said it in modern days, she'd just be sitting around in airports, and that would have been a pretty uneventful book. And then the other one was, the inspiration. So I had this idea, and I had it already set in the 1880s, where I have this, and the original idea was to have an older lady who was suffering from some minor ailment like arthritis or something like that. So she goes to her doctor. And this is an idea I had for a short story. She goes to her doctor and she's, I've got this little thing. What do you recommend? The doctor says, go somewhere warm and dry. Go take a vacation south. That will help, because that's what they did back then. And all she hears is travel. And so she she goes way overboard in her doctor's advice and she travels south, and then she keeps traveling because she gets it into her head that if she ever stops, she'll die. And so it was like a joke, like the cure being worse than the actual disease. And that was the original idea. And I kept thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized maybe she should discover something along the way that nobody else ever sees. And then I came up with a kind of melancholy ending for the whole book or for the whole story and all that. And it just kept snowballing. I had more and more ideas, and I realized I can't write a story about an old paranoid lady. This is much bigger now. And so now it's in the entire lifetime, starting from when she's a little girl to when she's older. And it's no longer just something in her head. Now it's going to be a real disease because they have to keep her moving. I mean, if I'm going to make someone move for their whole lifetime, particularly a 9-year-old girl, you just can't have her like stuck on an idea. Her parents will talk her out of it. If you give her a real life-threatening disease, that's a good motivation to get up in the morning and go. So that's how that happened. It's actually in the book. I can't remember where. I wish I knew this was coming, but there's a couple of paragraphs in the book. I think she reads about it in a book where she reads a story about an old lady who was told by her doctor to travel. So I actually kept the old lady's story in there.
Yeah, that would be me. I like the old lady. I like the old lady story a lot because I for sure would just overdo the whole thing. I'm like, yeah, let me go to every ocean, every beach, get fresh air. Because I remember being told that because I had bad asthma when I was younger. So yeah, just go get some salt air. I would just go everywhere. Circle the whole country. I probably would. But there's some good that happens in the novel. So even though she's traveling all this time, she learns a lot of things along the way. She learns how to get her food. She learns how to overcome language barriers. She actually learns what it's like to let go. You have favorite places and favorite people. She falls in love for a little, even though, again, it's for a short period of time because of her condition. And then also sometimes when she gets in a tough spot, magically, she'll get some relief. She discovers lots of libraries. So there's a fun adventure component to it. There's a fun love component, I feel, and also loss. Tell me about what it was like for you writing these parts of the story when she's really getting out there.
Yeah, those were like the three big themes that run all the way through it. So yeah, the first part you were saying, it's a big epic adventure. And that was foremost in my mind. I was thinking, because I love adventure stories. When I was a kid, I'd watch Indiana Jones and I would watch the Star Wars and Mad Max. And I love all this adventure stuff. When I got older, I would read White Fang. And like I was saying, Murakami, I love him. Somerset Maugham, like I was saying. And a lot of their stories, just these kind of epic adventures. And I loved it. And I discovered like magical real when I read Master and Margarita. That changed everything because that was like, it's considered this great masterwork and a philosophical treatise and all this kind of stuff. People just love it. It's great literature. But when I read it, all I could remember, that's not true, but what really stood out to me was that there was this talking black cat and this killer clown, and they're having a gunfight with the KGB with all bullets flying everywhere and no one getting hit. And I was like, you can do this in great literature. That was an aha moment for me. And I just that was the kind of, and I decided right there, that was the kind of story I wanted to write. And because it opens up, you can like have the stuff I read now, Dostoevsky and Murakami and some of these very profound writers. And that's my sensibilities now. That's the kind of stuff I like to read now. But when I was a kid, I liked Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all that stuff. Now I've discovered this magical realism thing, which is like the two of them combining, they're old buddies and they're like having a great time together and all that. And that's the kind of stuff I wanted to write. I wanted to write something that was fun, but didn't insult my intelligence, so to speak. I wanted something smart. And that was the adventure part of it was really important to me. That was first and foremost, because if your story is not entertaining, doesn't matter how deep it is or anything else, nobody's going to read it. They want to read something that's entertaining and fun and adventurous. So I really went for that. The other thing you were talking about, you said the other theme was love. And so she's in a totally unique situation in which she can meet one person after another. She actually has, I think, 5 love stories in here. And I decided this is going to be a once in a lifetime thing because most stories, you get 1, maybe 2 love stories in a book, in a story. But now she can have several. So I said, and nobody would blame her because it's not her fault. These are the circumstances of her life. She can't stay with anybody any longer because she's going to have to leave them. So I decided I was going to emphasize the different kinds of varieties of love out there. So she's going to have a very possessive love in the beginning. She's going to have a very romantic love affair on a train. There's going to be a love without words, somebody she can't even share the language with. There's a platonic love. There's an unrequited love. There's love in old age. I tried to cover it because I just thought it was interesting and I might as well go for it. And the other thing is loss. So we talked about the adventure of the story. So we've got a firm foot right in there where it's like an epic adventure, like Odysseus, the Odyssey, something like that. But at the same time, she's lost everything. She's got no family. She's got no home, no place she can really call home. All her love affairs are brief. She lives a life in a state of permanent exile. And so the idea is, how do you make a meaning out of a life that feels like a lifelong punishment? And yeah, you got a foot in both places. So for the reader, there's the adventure part of it, but there's also the psychological part of it. This cannot possibly always going to be fun for somebody. It's going to be really hard. And for Aubrey, it's especially hard, I think.
Yes, I think it was especially hard for her. I think my favorite one, though, was the one on the train. That was quite interesting. But it's fair to say she's doing a lot of traveling. I love the adventure component. I'm a huge Jules Verne fan. So I loved hearing, for me, it's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, though. I love that one the most.
Yeah,
80 Days Around the World was good too. But for sure, I'm a sea person. I love stories about traveling by sea. But yes, so I appreciated more than anything the adventure component. So for that reason, I want us to play a little game. We're going to be globe trotting around the world because Aubrey's traveling. She's doing a lot of traveling and adventure. So I'm thinking this is a great opportunity for us to get to know you more and what your travel interests are. So I'm just going to give you some prompts and you're just going to let me know what locations come up for you. How does that sound?
All right, well, let's try this.
Okay. First off, people need a baseline. Where are you from?
I'm from Boston, New England boy.
Okay, so Boston. What was the best trip you've ever been on?
Oh my gosh, the best trip? How do I categorize this? Because there are different kinds of trips, right? So I loved going to Japan. I think it's one of the most wonderful countries on earth. I loved Iceland. There was another great country. And it's interesting. They both had the best food I ever ate. They both have a hot springs culture. They both got cold in the winter. But so those are the best, probably the two best places I've ever been. But on the other hand, a lot of my favorite trips are the ones where everything went wrong. I remember driving across the country. I've driven cross country many times. And one time, and driving cross country is awesome, by the way, because I've seen 2 lunar eclipses. I remember driving across Canada. I saw the Northern Lights, amazing things when you're driving cross country. And I was driving through Utah in the middle of the night, and I hadn't been there before. And the landscape, I couldn't make heads or tails out of it. It looked like the surface of the moon. It was not like nothing I've ever seen before. And when the sun came up, so did all the clouds. And there was this big snowstorm that just swept in. I'm driving west to east. I'm trying to get back home to Boston all the way from LA. And this snowstorm followed me for 3 days. For 3 days, it was like the scariest driving on earth. I was driving highways through the mountains and there were trucks and cars and everything that crashed off to the side of the road everywhere I went. And it was a really scary drive. And you couldn't pull over to stop and wait it out because you would get covered in snow. And I just drove it. But I remember the middle of the night, the clouds clearing and the moon coming out. And I was high up in the mountains and everything was white. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in the middle of all this terror. So that was amazing. I went sailing with my dad as a kid. He had a boat. He built his own boat, actually. And it was a big, from scratch. And it was a sailboat, a ketch, and it fit the whole family. And we would sail up the coast of Maine, down to Cape Cod and Long Island. As far as Newfoundland, we sailed to Bermuda on the thing like twice. Those were amazing experiences, sailing through whales and dolphins and anchoring in these little coves where there's seals around. And those were just magical experiences.
I can't even imagine that. The second you were talking about that, I think for me, my favorite trip, actually, my other question to you was, what was your favorite travel memory? And hearing you talk about sailing, I think my favorite memory was going from, is it Belfast? It's a B name up in Maine, all the way down to Fort Lauderdale by boat.
Wow.
I think it's Belfast or Yeah, I think that's...
There's Bar Harbor, there's
No,
Brunswick.
it's south of Bar Harbor. I remember that because I wanted to go there because I've never been to Acadia National Park. I remember that. And on that trip, my husband was like, yeah, no, can't make it because it was actually a work trip for him. But he actually took me. So it is Belfast. It is. I had to pull up my map because I'm like, there's no way I'm forgetting this. So it's Belfast. It's north of Rockland. And it's like an old shipping town or area or something like. They used to build boats up there, my husband said. They still do, but on a larger scale. So we traveled from Belfast all the way down to Fort Lauderdale by boat for the show. It took us 3 weeks because, one, we weren't in that much of a rush, but just stopping at the different, marinas and stuff. It was amazing. It just blew my mind. And at that point, I've seen nothing of America then. I just moved maybe like a year or two before. And so, yeah, that was a memorable memory. And you shared quite a bit with us today. So that sounds really cool. Tell me about 5 countries that you would like to visit in the future. So you want to visit them again, or you've never been. Tell us 5 countries.
Gosh, some of them are in the book, like the Himalayas I would love to go to. And that's why I wrote about it. I loved researching the Himalayas for the book because I'd always wanted to go. And I wanted this book to be an adventure for me, just like it is everybody else. So I picked some places I hadn't been before. Himalayas is way up on my list. I would love to go out there and see either side of it. That would be great. I'm trying to think, what else would I like to go to? My son keeps complaining that I take him to cold places. So I'm thinking maybe I'll take him to like South Pacific someday, Hawaii or something. So he'll stop complaining. But I do have a penchant for cold places. Those are the ones that pop into my head right away. New Zealand, I would love to see New Zealand. And I want to go back to Japan. I want to go back to some of these places. There are lots of places I want to go to. The list is endless because it's hard to think of a place I don't want to go to, besides the obvious places like North Korea. But if you subtract those, I would love to go to Kazakhstan. I'm a little bit obsessed with it. I read stories about it all the time. I wish I had said a little part of my book in Kazakhstan. I was only able to mention it a couple of times. But yeah, it'd be lots of fun places to go. Interesting places.
Yes, there are lots of interesting places. Now, back to the question I'd asked earlier about why the 1880s. You explained that beautifully. Unfortunately, we're in present day, and I know it can get really sucky being stuck in an airport waiting for your plane. What is your favorite mode of travel? Because you can go by boat, you can go by plane, you can go by train, you can go by car, you can go by bus. What's your favorite?
I love doing road trips. I've been doing road trips since I was a little kid, which is by car, because that's immediately available and you can just jump in your car and go. And I've done that many times. And that's fun because it's different from a train. And train's nice because you can sit there and look out the window and you can write or do whatever you want to do while you're doing it. But it's very shaky, so it's hard to write by hand. You would have to use a keyboard, I think. And you can't stop. You can see something going by your window and like, oh, I want to go there. And it can't because you're on a train.
Oh, yeah.
The boat's fun, but sea voyages are very different from land. Like when you're on the boat, I once sailed through the Caribbean. I don't remember. I didn't meet anybody. I don't know what the towns were like because I was on the water.
Yeah.
I know exactly what the stingrays were like. I could see the coral underneath the boat and all that, but I never actually got to go into town, not very often anyway, and meet people and see how they lived and stuff. It's a very different experience on a boat, but it's a great experience, but it's a whole very different kind. It's not one of these, it's not, when you travel by boat, you don't necessarily meet the people and learn the culture and stuff like that. It's a very different experience.
It is. It is.
But I love it all the same.
Yeah. I think I agree with you on the car, though, because I've grown to love travel by car. I think I would have said train maybe 10 years ago, because I still love a train. But I do love getting in the car, going from place to place, not being limited. And my family and I, we do lots of road trips. Or most recent, we flew into Boston. We drove up to New Hampshire. It's the White Mountains. Yep. It was beautiful. Now, here's the thing. When you were talking about driving at night, we ended heading up there in the evening. Our plane was delayed. We got there late. So it was, I think, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It was dark because this was like October. And we were heading, late October. And we were heading up there. But it was so dark. I couldn't see anything except a shooting star up front, like it lit up the sky and then just disappeared. I was like, wow, that is strange, but it was a great experience. And then we just drove to Maine and then back down to Massachusetts and did a little seaside towns and all that. It was great. So I love the car because of the freedom. I love the train, and I'm not a big fan of planes. I don't like them much.
I don't like flying in a plane, but I don't actually mind hanging out in airports because I figured out, actually, I was in an airport not that long ago and I was just sitting there and I had a long wait time. I think it was like 5 hours till my flight took off. And I sat in this, I found a lounge. I travel so much, I get to go into lounges and sat up and I wrote like for 5 hours straight and it was totally great. And there were people buzzing around me and all that sort of stuff. And I love airports because I love walking by the signs, all the gates and all the different places that there are. And you just fantasize, oh, I want to go to that one. Oh, I want to go to that one. And I pick out places I want to go to next. And that's fun. And some of these airports are just architectural masterpieces. Not all of them, but some of them, particularly when I was in China. It's incredible.
Wow. Sounds amazing. So let's get into your writing life, shall we? Because you're writing for 5 hours in an airport lounge. So that's great. Are you working on any other books? I know this one's very new, but are you working on any other projects? What can we expect?
I am. I finished one book, at least the rough draft of it. And I started on my third. I'm planning a fourth about AI. So I'm always working on stuff. I have a backlog of stories. So it's not like I'm short on stories. But yeah, novels can take time and you want to do it right. So there's that. But other than that, and because I've been researching AI and all that, I'm like, I have to get as many books out as I can because in 5 years, I'm going to be unemployed because AI will be taking all our jobs. So I'm rushing but it's fun. So I have lots of story ideas. Some of them are also, a lot of them actually tend to be like epic journey type stories. Not quite as epic as A Short Walk Through a Wide World. That's my most epic travel story or journey story so far. But there are a couple of those still coming up. I don't know. I hesitate to give away storylines and plot lines and things like that, but I'm always working.
You're always working. That's good to know. So let's jump into your reading life real quick, shall we? Because even though we're here to talk about your book, A Short Walk Through a Wide World, we want to know what our authors are reading. So share with our listeners the last book or books you finished reading that you would now recommend.
The very last book I just finished was The Bullet Swallower, and that was really great. And before that, there was A Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan. There's The Mysterious Case of the Appleton Murders, I think it is. And I don't read a lot of mystery, but that one was great. It had a really cool format. It had 10 twists at the end. It was really fun. But lately, I think maybe my favorite one was Fruit of the Dead by Rachel Lyon. That was a great book. I'm looking forward to reading The Wives by Simone Garinda. I think it comes out next week. I met her and she's really fun person. And it's about, half of my family is from the military, tied to the military somehow. And she writes about the military life in this book. So it's a memoir, but I'm interested in that. Other than that, Amor Towles has a new book coming out, Yangtze Chu. I've never read Tana French, but she's got a new book coming out. Oh, my editor, her next book is called The Ministry of Time. She was telling me about it. And that one sounds really cool. So I'd love to do that. I've got a long list. It's hard. I've got a list of stuff I want to read, classic stuff as well. I've got stuff I want to reread. I've got a huge reading list. I know I'll never get around to half the stuff I want to read. So that part's sad, but that's what happens to Aubrey in the book. She enters these libraries and she can't read all this stuff. I feel the same way all the time. I'm totally sympathetic.
100%. The good news is we'll always have reading material. So it's really just up to our moods at this point, what our mood dictates. But what was your favorite book as a child? Like, what book do you remember just really loving or just being captivated by?
My mom loved horses. I remember she made me read all the Marguerite Henry books. She didn't make me, but she's, if you want to read, try these. And they were great. I really liked them. King of the Wind. I love that one. And they're all books about horses. That was her thing, Marguerite Henry's thing. Justin Morgan had a horse, Misty of Shinakati. I'm like getting all sentimental remembering this stuff. And then later on, when I was picking my own stuff, I was like reading a lot of C.S. Lewis, if I remember right. Oh, a lot of Lloyd Alexander. I liked him a lot. The Black Cauldron, Chronicles of Prydain, I think it was called. There was the Black Cauldron. There was the Book of Three. There was 5 or 6 of them, I think. And they were great. I love those. I remember I became a big movie buff at one point. So I was reading novelizations of movies and they weren't exactly high literature. I loved that at the time. And then eventually I started reading the more sophisticated stuff.
Awesome. So what advice would you give someone who wants to incorporate more reading into their lives, or someone who's going through a reading slump? So someone who's trying to find time, life is just life. And then also they've been reading, but nothing is catching their attention right now. What advice would you give them?
That's tough because that happens to me a lot. So I was in the Dublin Literary Committee, right? And you have to read, I should explain. It's a book contest, novel contest that is where the librarians around the world pick their favorite books. And then they sent a short list of their 3 favorites off to Dublin, Ireland. And then they've got like some pros, go through what's common on everybody's list. And then they pick a favorite. So when you're in this committee, you've got to read, 50, 100, you don't have to, but I was reading like 50, 100 books a year. And it was a huge education. I wouldn't have written this book if I hadn't been on that committee. It was just tremendous. It demystified writing for me. I always thought it was way beyond my ability. But after a while, when you start reading, you start becoming more critical and you start to be able to like pull things apart. But the other thing is every once in a while, you just burn out. You can redo this for 3 years and then you're like, oh, I'm tired. And in the 4th year, you're lucky if you get 10 books in. And I don't force it. And what I'll do is for that, I was reading current literary fiction. And so what I would do is I would just get away. I would read nonfiction. I would read a classic book I always meant to and never got around to or whatever. Just get out of that cycle. I would experiment and just try different things, short stories. Reading something short helps. What really matters is that you have to just keep reading until you find something that's really exciting to you. And that usually kicks me in the butt and makes me want to start reading all over and over again. And that's what I always find gets me out of the slump. I'll just sit back, I'll experiment with different things, and then finally I'll find something that really picks me up, inspires me, and then I just start reading. I go in a binge all over again. That's how I do it.
Yes, I think just keep going till something catches your interest. Read a couple of pages and then... It's
okay to put something down if you're not into it, like in the first 10, 20 pages.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more. So on the show, we love our authors, we love our books, but we also love our indie bookstores. So share with our listeners your favorite local indies.
I guess the only ones I know are around here. And there's some great ones around here. I'm in Cleveland right now, but there's Loganberry Books. There is the Fireside Bookshop. This is going to be awful. I'm afraid of forgetting some because there are lots. Let's see. There's, Apple Tree Books. That's a great one. I have a friend who works there, so I go there all the time. Those are probably my favorite independent ones. There's also Half Price Books I go to a lot because I can't, particularly so many years ago, I couldn't afford to buy some brand new books all the time. So I go to Half Price and I get my movies there too. And so that was a great place. These are the places I go to the most. Just really friendly staff. Actually, I remember when I first sold this book and I went to the folks at Apple Tree and I went to the folks at Fireside. That's right. And I was just like, so what do I do? And they were starting giving me advice as booksellers. Oh, just be yourself. Because I was telling them I have to go talk to all these booksellers and pitch my book. And they're like, you'll be fine. Do this. And they let me practice on them a little bit. It was fun. So great people, great selection of books, really helpful. Those are the best ones around here in the Cleveland area anyway.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So getting back to your book now and wrapping things up, A Short Walk Through a Wide World. I know you've written the book. That's it. You've put your words and your ideas in this great, again, epic adventure, in my opinion. And we get the love, the loss, lots of profound questions I feel were put to the forefront as well, in addition to the fun traveling bits. But what are you hoping in an ideal world readers might think or feel, or what discussions are you hoping they might have after they've turned the last page?
So the book is a lot of things. It's like we were saying, it's an epic adventure. It's a travelogue almost inherently. It's a character study. There's bits of philosophy woven in it. It's also very much a spiritual tale. I think that's the heart of it, really, because it's like a pilgrimage. She's going on this big journey. And the idea is that maybe there's enlightenment in store for her or something like along those lines. When I was first writing this book, I tend to write in stages. So I would write a 1-page outline in like 30 broken up into 30 little bits. And then I would extend it out to 20 pages, then 50, then 100. Somewhere along the lines, when it was like 150 pages, I had all the dialogue written out, all the scenes explained. And I sat down with my wife and I read it to her over the course of 3-4 nights. And when we got to the ending, I remember she said, and she's a musician, by the way, she plays violin with the Cleveland Orchestra. When we got to the end, she said, that was like music. And it was like the perfect answer. ever. It was exactly what I was something along those lines was exactly what I was hoping for. I wanted a very beautiful, poetic ending to the book. And when she said that, I was like on cloud nine. That's what I'm hoping everybody takes away from the book, is that there was a beauty and a poetry to Aubrey's life. And if they can recognize it in Aubrey's life, perhaps they can recognize it in their own as well. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping people get out of it the most.
Awesome. Doug, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Reader's Couch podcast. Please subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Until next time, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks again for listening, and happy reading.